This video is published by MBKP International, LLC. In this video we're going to be doing an adjustment on our electric paper cutter. It's for the EC19 or EC17. This adjustment will be basically identical on the two units. In this example here we'll be doing it on the EC19. And this adjustment here is for the back paper support here. And basically what it is if you're cutting a piece of paper and say you want to cut it at 11 inches. This is longer than 11 inches, but let's just say it was 11 inches. And then after you cut it at 11 inches, you go to measure, and this side's 11 inches, and this side say 10 and 15/6 or 10 and 7/8 or something like that. So it's basically this would be at a little bit of an angle. It's not perfectly straight. Okay. Before you do this adjustment, you just want to make sure first there could be some human error as far as not getting the paper up against this correctly. So first you want to make, if your paper cutter is not cutting straight, you want to make sure you are putting the paper up against this back paper support perfectly, because if you're not, it's obviously not going to cut straight. In this video we're assuming you are putting your paper perfectly up against this, and it is this that's out of adjustment. Okay, and it's a fairly easy adjustment to do. There's a couple when you do this adjustment, you're going to have to measure afterwards. You're either going to have to do this adjustment and then cut a piece of paper and then measure that paper to see if it's cutting right, or the way I'm going to do it in this video is I'm going to measure from the back of this paper support to the cut line on the cut pad from both sides. And to do that I have to remove this shield. You can do it either way you want. If you do it the way I'm doing it, you got to remove the shield. Just be very careful because there is a sharp blade there. Be very aware of that blade. You just take these two screws out with a Phillips screwdriver and then remove this shield. I just did it in advance to make this a little quicker. And again, the way I'm doing it, you can see on your red cut pad, there's always going to be a cut line there where the blade's been hitting that cut pad. So that's what I'm going to measure off. And the way I'm going to do it, I just take this tape measure and I come back here and I butt it up against that side right there. Just lightly butt it up against it, and I can see from here that that's perfectly on 11 inches. And then I go over to this side and do the same thing. This one should be adjusted, so it's going to be right. So this one's perfectly on 11 inches too. Okay. So I don't actually need to adjust this one, but I'm going to do it for this video. But anyway, that's what you'd be checking after each adjustment. You'd see if it needs any more adjustment by that. Or you can do it by keeping your shield on, and after you do an adjustment, just putting a piece of paper in there and cutting it and then measuring the paper to see if it's right. You can do it either way you want. If you do it this way with taking the shield off, just be very careful, because that shield is a safety mechanism to keep you from getting your hand cut, so don't let any other people around it. Maybe unplug it, turn it off, hit the emergency stop or something, and just know that blade is up there and you can still even cut yourself if you get your finger up in there. So just be very careful if you do take that shield off. Okay, first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove the screw here, which I already did, and then you can kind of rotate that down. Do it the same for the other side, and then you can slide this shield out. You can put this in the middle to where you don't have to slide this all the way, and that's what I did. I'm just going to slide it 3/4 of the way out, and that way I have area to work on this. Okay. And then you're going to need some Allen wrenches. And let's see, we got a 6. This is a larger one. It's going to be a 6mm Allen wrench, and that's for these two right here. And you're going to need a 3mm for the side screws. Now this is an EC19. The EC17 may only have one on each side, while this one has two. It just depends on your machine. You either have one on each side or you have two on each side. It doesn't really matter. You just have to loosen them. Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to loosen these top ones here. And I got them a little loose. We just basically want to turn them a couple turns, 1 to 2 turns each, just to get them loose. And that's it. And the next thing you're going to do, right now, see, this is nice and snug. It's not moving around, but when you loosen these screws, just a turn or two, just about a turn is all they need. And I'll do all 4. Now you're going to have some play in this. In fact, you probably don't need, I loosened it about a turn. Looks like you probably only need to do about a 1/4 of a turn or half a turn each, something like that, because that's a lot of play there. And basically what you're going to do is you're just going to, let's pretend I didn't do that. So as soon as you loosen it, by measuring it or by doing your cuts, you know which side is off. Let's say when I measured this with a tape measure, it was first you have to set it to an inch mark. I set this to 11, so this thing is set at 11 inches, so I know that. So then I'd come here and I'd check this, and it's at 11 inches. And then if I went over to this side, And let's say it's really off, but you know, most of them aren't going to be off that much. Let's say it was 10 3/4 on this side, a 1/4 of an inch off, or 10 7/8 or an 1/8 of an inch off. Basically, this side is too short, and that side's at 11. So you're going to have to. It'd be moving this one. Let's see, for 10 3/4, you need to be moving this one back. So it'd just be a slight hair move back like that, and you can test it too, as long as you don't. You can check the measurements here like this if you want, or you can just do a little bit at a time and then retighten it each time, you know, and then just recheck it. And see, and basically you're just gonna slowly tighten these down, just lightly snugging them, lightly snugging them, lightly, and again very lightly snug, lightly snug, lightly snug a little more, and a little more. And then just get them, just go through them all, lightly snug them all the way around again, until they're all tight. And then check your measurements again and see where you're at. Either that or do your cut if you're going to do it that way. Just cut a piece of paper and see where you're at there. And you can see whether you're lined up right or not. Now you can set anything. I got it set to 11. You can set it to 10, 9 inches, whatever. You just got to know what it's set at so you can check it and measure either your paper or measure it like I'm doing it here. And then if it's right, then you go ahead and just tighten these 2 screws down, these 2 bolts down right here. Snug them down a little bit at each time. You don't over torque one over the other. Just lightly snug each one a little bit more. That way, because this thing is, when you're talking a 1/16 of an inch off or a 32nd of an inch off, it just takes a hair of a fraction of a movement to move that. Just keep snugging them down till they're nice and snug, and then you can do a little torque at the end. Not much more. Okay, and then just do a light torque at the end. And you may want to push on, just lightly push that while you're doing it, just so it don't crank this whole thing if you tighten it too hard. That's basically it. You know, you can, if it's not it, you can loosen them back up, and you can just replay with these screws. 2 on each side. It could be 1 on each side depending on your unit, but you just got to loosen them up, and you'll have a little play in this, and you can adjust it wherever you want. It's just going to be up to you how, you know, if you can get it adjusted. If you can't, you need to find someone who you know, is more mechanically an inclined person that works with machinery or something that could do it for you. But it's just a matter of, you know, getting it at the right angle and snugging these screws down, because you've got your play there, and you can snug these down wherever you want it. So it's just a matter up to you as to if you get it the exact precise mark. And basically when you're done, you know, you get everything, all your screws snugged back up. Obviously you just want to slide your shield back over, put these back into place. And if you did take your safety shield off, you definitely want to get that back on. And put your screws back in there with your Phillips screwdriver. Okay, and that's basically it. It's a fairly simple adjustment. It just may take a little time, a little tweaking, especially if you're wanting precision, like down to, you know, less than like 32nd of an inch. So some people might be a 32nd of an inch off, and some people don't care about that, and some people do. And when you're talking a 32nd of an inch off on one side, it's extremely fine, and it takes the smallest movement. In fact, there's a little tip I can show you. You know, it's not the technically the best way of doing it, but it does work. And with these snugged up, you know, you don't have to loosen these. With these snugged up, if this was just cutting like a 32nd to a 1/16 of an inch more, 1/16 might be too much, but if it's like shorter than a 1/16, around the 32nd of an inch longer or shorter than the other end, you can always just push on this. You know, just give a good push like that, and sometimes that's all it takes, because sometimes a jolt during shipping can just knock these off a hair. Depending on which side, you know, if you needed it that way, you can push that way, you know what I mean? It just depends, you know. Or you can get it like this and push like that, and just, it doesn't, you know, just a pretty good tug both ways, then remeasure it, you know, like I showed you with the tape measure. And this would work if it's just a fraction, like a 32nd of an inch off. And it depends on which way it's off as to which way you're pushing or tugging, of course. But you would have to determine that depending on which side is off on you. But it's a very simple, quick adjustment if you need to do it, and you don't want to mess with these adjustment screws. But that's about it. I hope I've covered everything, and I hope this makes it easier for you to adjust that. This video was published by MDKP International, LLC.